Barnes. So stay with us here at SportsGrid as we get you ready for the big weekend ahead and naturally recapping everything that happened in sports yesterday. Some big NBA news, I guess you could say. And also we finally have determined the Final Four in college football. I guess the only issue is the Final Four football teams are not the first 4 seeds in the college football playoffs. So will they fix this thing or just keep it going? Who knows? Either way, Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, they are headed to play in the Orange Bowl next Thursday night against Penn State. That 1-day delay to the game didn't seem like it factored in at all to this one. 23-10 the final. Georgia couldn't get anything going with their backup quarterback offensively. A big fumble in this game was really the key to it. And Notre Dame carried on the strength of their defense and decent quarterback play, as you would say, from Riley Leonard has got them now 1 game away from a national championship. They will have to do it in South Florida, where it should be a very compelling game on Thursday night against Penn State. Here's Marcus Freeman, the head coach of the Irish, talking about the accomplishment of getting there.
I think I said this after the game, but I'm so proud of this program, the team, for the work they put into obtaining the result that we got tonight. I would remind them in the last 10 days as we prepared, this will be a 60-plus minute fight. Georgia's been down in 9 games this year, and they find a way to come back and win. And so they had that mentality. Our coaches called the game aggressive. Our players executed, put everything on the line for this university and this football team. And I'm really proud of them, proud of the way they handled, the events of the last 24 hours. And I want to make sure I, again, send our condolences on behalf of our university and our football program to everyone that was affected by the tragedy. And, they had to be able to still get ready for this game with the natural emotions that come into each individual that happened after the tragedy. And so I'm proud of the way they prepared. They stayed steady, and they went out and they did a great job. And so
meanwhile, Georgia's season comes to an end with a whimper. Kirby Smart, after the game, giving all the credit to Notre Dame.
A lot of credit to Notre Dame and their staff and their team. They played exactly like we expected them to play. Physical, tough, don't beat yourself. And they did that. They did those exact things, right? They got 2 turnovers, and we didn't, and they returned a kickoff for a touchdown. So we basically spotted them, probably 14 points off of that, and costed ourselves a possession in the red area when we fumbled down there. But they did a really good job. They play really hard, physical, ran the football. So do we. Those two mirror each other. I think both defenses played well, and we turned the ball over, and they didn't. And they gave us problems in the pass game with the sack and the sack fumble. So give them a lot of credit. That takes nothing away from these men on the stage and the seniors that are part of this class. I mean, absolutely incredible. I just told them what they went through this year and what they played and how they played, the resiliency, the injuries that we've had, and to win an SEC championship, which I have so much respect for our conference, and to win some of the comeback games they won and never quit, even in this game, never quit. That's the attitude you got to have to get better as a football program. So we got a lot of guys moving on, a lot of guys hurt in that locker room because we didn't get the outcome we wanted. But that's part of life, and I give Notre Dame credit for how they played, and give our seniors and our leaders credit for what they've done for this program.
Georgia still expected to be ranked in the top 5 going into next year as well. Meanwhile, where will Alabama be ranked? They'll be looking for a new quarterback, either internally or through the transfer portal, as Jalen Milroe makes his intentions known. He's headed to the NFL draft, making a statement yesterday that he is leaving the Crimson Tide. Football has always been my passion since I was a kid, dreaming of competing at the highest level. Also said that he's very happy for the opportunity in the sport. And at the end said he is declaring for the NFL draft. There's a lot of difference of opinion on where and when Milroe will be drafted. Most draft prognosticators have Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward as the top 2 quarterbacks taken in the upcoming draft. But look, who knows? I mean, you know how quarterback inflation works. Maybe Milroe ends up being drafted right ahead of them. But he will be a first-day pick in the upcoming NFL draft. Meanwhile, Kliff Kingsbury has had a lot of success with quarterbacks in the past, and he could potentially become a head coach once again in the NFL. He's done a fantastic job with Jaden Daniels in Washington, and his name is now in the coaching circle again. But this time around, Kingsbury said he'd like to return, but in a careful situation.
Do you want to be a head coach again?
Yeah, I'm sure at some point. yeah, at some point.
Do you plan to interview for jobs this year?
I won't comment on that, but yeah, we'll see how everything plays out. But I'm very happy here. Yeah, this has been an awesome place and has really helped me kind of rekindle my love for the sport.
And last one, but what did you learn from your first stint, and what would you be looking for?
Yeah, I think the first one, I didn't know what I didn't know, really. Coming from college, I had bounced around on teams as a player, but not as a coach on any level. And so to come in there, I don't think I set the foundation the way I would do it after watching DQ and how he set the foundation from day one. And it was, these are the standards. This is what we won't compromise. This is what we're going to be. I definitely could have done a better job of that. And kind of once you don't lay it out like that, it's hard to put it back in. You know, it's hard to kind of reset it. And I think that's where he's done such a great job. It's like, this is what we're going to be from day one. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. And the guys bought in and, he's led in an incredible way.
Back to some other NFL news. The Jets are interviewing Mike Vrabel for their head coaching position. Louis Riddick has interviewed for the GM position. And also the Browns announced they're starting Bailey Zappi at quarterback. The Ravens are 20-point favorites going into that game. Also another bowl yesterday, in case you missed it, wasn't much of one. Ole Miss crushes Duke in the Gator Bowl, 52-20. Jackson Dart threw for 4 touchdowns and 400 yards. Louisville's punter, Brady Hodges, said he opted out of the Sun Bowl because he didn't get the NIL money he was supposed to get. How about that? Also, Indiana quarterback Curtis Rourke played the 2024 season on a torn ACL. He's going to have surgery. He'll be fine going into next year. Couple of college bowl games today as we get ready to close out bowl season. Texas State, 13.5-point favorites against North Texas. And then later tonight on the Mayo Bowl, we've got Minnesota taking on Virginia Tech. In the NBA, the Miami Heat lost yesterday to the Indiana Pacers. That was not the story. Even though Tyrese Halliburton went off, so did Jimmy Butler. But in a different way, post-game, Jimmy Butler was asked about if he could be happy remaining with the Miami Heat for the remainder of the season.
Whether I score 9 points or 29 points, I will compete. That's one thing that I will say. So you won't say that I'm out there not playing hard. It may look like that because my usage is down and I don't shoot the ball a lot, but we won't sit here and say that I don't play hard.
What will fix it? What do you want to see happen to fix it?
What do I want to see happen? I want to see me get my joy back from playing basketball. And wherever that may be, we'll find out here pretty soon. But I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court. But I want to be back to somewhat dominant. I want to hoop. And I want to help this team win. Right now, I'm not doing that.
Can you get your joy back here on the court?
Probably not.
Certainly looks like the end is near for Butler and Miami, although Pat Riley said he wouldn't be traded. See what happens next. Jason Tatum, big night for the Celtics. They beat the Timberwolves 118-115. SGA last night, 29 points. Thunder win their 13th in a row. It wasn't close. They beat the Clippers by more than 20, and Steph Curry 8 for 8 from 3. Warriors beat the 76ers final 139-105. Real quick, let's go to college basketball. 32-point margin of victory, largest ever by any team in a road game against an AP top 10. That's Illinois going on the road and beating Oregon 109-77. Gonzaga wins by 31 over Portland. Purdue crushes past Minnesota 81-61. Braden Smith had 20 points in that game. Our next guest is Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report here as we get a new year started with our friends over at LSR, LegalSportsReport.com. You can check out all of the columns over there, everything that we discuss on the show as well. Hey, Sam, Happy New Year. Thanks for coming back here on Newswire. And kind of a time to review some things that happened in the year of sports betting. And certainly a good place to start with money, which is what we're always talking about here. And it appears as though a lot of records were broken in 2024.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too, Craig. And it was a great year for the sports betting industry. Once again, as you had another record amount of total dollars bet, at LSR, we're projecting $150 billion, all legally bet at sportsbooks during the full year of 2024. That's according to data only from 33 states out of the 37 that report so far. So it might even be a much bigger total than that. Interestingly enough, 95% of that was online. We've kind of seen that move more and more as the years have gone on, as legal betting has spread. You have the shift away from retail sports books and the shift towards online where you can bet on your phone. And you see so many more states are embracing it now as well. And the total bet was a 23% increase from last year, but notably the revenue that the operators keep after they pay out winning bets was up even more, 29% to $14.2 billion. So it shows that while more people are betting larger amounts, the operators are, increasing the pace at which they squeeze revenue out of players by an even higher count. 2.9 billion of that total was sent to state and local governments in the form of taxes. Now, it's still just a drop in the bucket compared to the total amount of taxes that a state might get in their budget, but it's not nothing, and it's a lot more than we really conceived of when the Supreme Court repealed PASPA and paved the way for states to legalize sports betting. So you see it's just continuing to grow. You have sports books also taking a record 9.5% hold. That is essentially the money they keep after they pay out bets, their winning margin, so to speak. So the holds have gone up, as you've seen. We talk about it a lot, but I'm going to say it again. Parlays are increasingly popular. These high margin bets for the sports books, they've really leaned into that this year as well. These things that people kind of look at as lottery tickets, where they can determine a game narrative in return for a big return, obviously has a small chance of hitting. So sports books have done a really good job profiting off that and pushing it on people. You have states like Nevada were surpassed by a couple others this year. They actually had a smaller hold than usual, and a lot of that is because they have limited props, limited parlay offerings, and more betting in person, maybe some sharper bettors in the state as well. You had New York overtake all of the states for most dollars bet ever. New York has only had legal betting for a few years, but it's already surpassed New Jersey, Nevada in terms of total amount bet, just showcasing that it's one of the biggest states that is able to squeeze a lot of money out of players. You have other states as well, like Illinois, making inroads. And on the business side, you have FanDuel and DraftKings accounting for 65% of all the dollars bet as they just continue to widen their lead against the rest of the competition. I think you have around 50 other or so small sports betting sites, bigger sports betting sites across the country. But FanDuel and DraftKings continue to dominate in that space. Looking forward to this year, you have possibly some new entrants, like Fanatics and ESPN Bet could make some inroads. Crypto.com and Robinhood, we've talked about, are interested in getting in betting as well. So we'll see if DraftKings and FanDuel continue what they did, but it was another great year for them in 2024 as betting overall was up across the board.
Yeah, no question. And that could go up if other states become legalized. Of course, we'll keep a close eye on California and Texas. But for today, Sam, let's focus on Oklahoma. I know a legislative session is coming up in February. They'd like to push things a little bit more forward. Naturally, I feel like Oklahoma and Texas are sort of intertwined. Whatever happens with one maybe happens with the other. But at least there's something in the works, although I know that there is cautious optimism. I guess that's the best way to put it right now.
Yeah, there are definitely different dynamics at play when you talk about the state legislatures and the stakeholders in Oklahoma and Texas. But you're right, Craig, anything that would happen to the smaller neighbor state in Oklahoma would probably be beneficial and a good selling point for Texas to legalize. Lawmakers could say, hey, they have it, so people are driving across the state. We're losing revenue. Oklahoma, one of those states which obviously has a lot of interest in professional sports. They have the Oklahoma City Thunder, best team in the NBA. Their colleges as well, Oklahoma State, draw a lot of interest as well. So people have been clamoring for sports betting in Oklahoma for a while. You have some hope. A bill was filed just before the legislature took a break at the end of the year that would legalize sports betting in the state. Now, the big roadblock there has been whether or not you can get the Native American tribes on board and whether or not you can get them all on board together to make this happen. The tribes have essentially been at odds with the governor, who proposed a mechanism of legalizing sports betting a few years ago that would have excluded some tribes. And now you have this bill that was filed by Senator Dave Rader, which would essentially require that at least 4 tribes in the state all agree to offer sports betting, and then they enter contracts with online gaming companies like FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, or whomever. And then they would all have to agree to offer sports betting together, as opposed to a state like Florida, where there's a monopoly dominated by the Seminoles with Hard Rock. And you've obviously had other tribes have taken issue with that, filing lawsuits against it. So I wouldn't say that it's a great, clear path ahead, but it is promising that you now have this bill. The big question here will be whether or not the tribes and the governor can mend their relationships from a few years ago. So we'll see what develops. But, with only a few states left on the board to legalize, you could definitely throw Oklahoma in that ring of, next closest to this year.
Yeah, it would be a good story to follow, at least a good start if one of the states would sort of get moving here a little bit. Maybe Oklahoma is that state this year. All right, online casino gaming, let's get into it here. I know that Illinois is a very big state for sports wagering, one of the top 5 in the country. I would guess, Sam, that anything moving forward in that realm would push them maybe even a little bit higher. But would it really count? It would count toward betting, I guess. It wouldn't count towards sports betting.
Yeah, Illinois is one of the biggest states in the country. It has a huge population, and it's done a tremendous job with the dollars bet. But it's expecting a $3 billion shortfall in its budget this year. So now lawmakers are kind of scrambling to see, hey, how can we fix that? How can we generate more tax revenue for the state? And Governor J.B. Pritzker, as he gets ready to propose his budget, it's being reported that he's open to legalizing online casino because of the tax revenue it might generate. So Illinois has generated $500 million in taxes just from sports betting in a few years. And it actually made headlines last year when it decided to up the tax rate that it charges on operators. You had some sports books like DraftKings respond saying, we're going to end up passing that tax down to bettors. That obviously didn't end up happening, but they've played around with this idea of getting more revenue for the state by increasing taxes. And sports betting is by no means this budget savior, but iGaming is a much higher margin business. The bill that was just filed is projected to raise about $800 million a year. And you compare that with only $200 million that Illinois got from sports betting this year, while it's still one of the biggest states. So it would be a much bigger, windfall for the budget than sports betting. Illinois would be the 8th state to have iGaming, joining those like New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So that would be just huge for the sports betting operators that are really clamoring to get iGaming moving and have really been kind of frustrated with a lack of momentum on that front. And if you have a big state like Illinois, leading the way, that's much more significant to kind of ushering the other big states and saying, hey, here's how much revenue they took. Maybe we could benefit from it as well. So it'll definitely be one we're watching this year, especially as the budget process develops. Illinois would be a huge, huge win for the iGaming industry.
All right, Sam, good stuff as always. Congrats, by the way, to your Nittany Lions playing in my backyard next week as they take on Notre Dame. It'll be a fun one as we get down to the Final Four in college football. We'll see what happens. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Craig. Go State.